What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Football Sis. Fantasy football for the girls, by the girls. We're diving into yet another week recap after another NFL football week, right? A freaking interesting week for fantasy football, in my opinion. Right, Ange?
Yes, it was very interesting. I mean, I think it was a good week 3, but a lot of interesting things happened in week 3. Maybe not so much on the offensive side, maybe so much on the defense or special team side were the stars of week 3.
Stars of the show, man. The defenses, the extra teams. We were joking watching football this weekend. We had a couple of our friends over to watch with us after a little pickleball. And we were joking that like all the special teams are just going to like swap places at some point because like half of them were upset and half of them were so happy. The defense was on fire. It was just an insane week 3, but some really good football showing, in my opinion. Where was a fun watch this weekend?
Yeah, it was a good time. And I was like, we're only in week 3. It feels like things are starting to kind of get normalized, right? Guys are starting to perform like we hoped they were.
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of a letdown here and there, but that's fantasy football. So you can't complain too much until maybe later in the season.
I know. Honestly, there's always going to be some letdowns and some what the fuck is going on. Well, anything fun you did this weekend outside of rotting and watching football?
I got to actually go watch some golf. So the YSU girls golf team hosted a tournament in town here. So my lovely mother and I got to go and ride around and watch some golf. And then I got to just spend some of the morning with my mom, which was really fun. And just a good time. And then I said, Mom, I got to be home for football. She's like, I know. So she was very on time with looking at, okay, are we good? Are we good on time? I said, yes, Mom, we're good on time. So, but she knows how important this is to us. So she got me back for football.
We love it. Fun fact, if you guys didn't know, we've talked about it a little bit, but not a ton, but Angie actually played D1 golf at Youngstown State University. So she's a fucking badass out here crushing shit. And then got to go back and watch, which is awesome. And anytime you get to spend a little extra time with our mom is always a good time. So we love it.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. Per usual, we're going to run through just kind of the overlook of what this episode is going to look like. I am in a different environment this week. I am currently house sitting for my best friend from college, and I'm house sitting her zoo of animals because she has a asshole cat. This cat is a dick. I'll put a video. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I'll add a video of Wilson, which is the cat's name, and Gus, her dog, fighting. It's freaking hilarious. But this cat is an asshole. He hates me. But I'm watching the cat. I'm watching her dog, Gus, who is the cutest little chunk. I'll put a picture too. Cutest little Frenchie chunk ever. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see a video. But if not, just a huge couch potato and weighted blanket because he likes to sleep on top of you. And then, unfortunately, she got, and I don't think lizard is the correct name. I think it's a chameleon. I don't freaking know what the hell this goddamn thing is.
I think it is too.
Caged chameleon lizard shit that now I have to feed live fucking crickets to, which is literally my worst nightmare, but we're taking one for the team and we're doing it. So I'm watching the zoo. I'm in a different environment, but we're going to dive into episode number 8 and typical flow here. We're going to do a little week 3 recap for you guys. We're going to talk injury reports that you need to be aware of as we move into week number 4. We're going to go over our rookie and vets of the week. And then of course, we're going to dive into every single week 4 matchup you need to know about. And at the end, we always save our sweet and spicy starts of the week for you guys. So without further ado, let's dive in to a little bit of week 3 recap. And like Ange already aired on, the really star of week 3, in my opinion, was the special teams. Special teams, defenses, they came in and said, hold my beer. We're going to put the focus back on us, which I love when a side of the football team gets to really shine. Typically you have the quarterbacks and the running backs and the wide receivers, maybe the tight ends, but not often do you get to say the winner of the game was the defense, right? And if we look at that Minnesota Vikings matchup, the Minnesota Vikings offense did not win that game. The defense won that game, right?
Absolutely, they did.
100%. Well, there are some other great 3 takeaways, some really good quarterback showings. So Caleb Williams showed us that he might be able to maintain that offense. Now, he's still going to be a little wishy-washy, not someone I'm going to all the way ship out, but he looked great in week number 3 facing the Cowboys. Meanwhile, Tua and Dak just were a little bit struggle bus in week number 3. Baker of the Buccaneers, again, you're just going to continue to say that he is a great quarterback option, even with some of his offense going out. We watched Mike Evans leave that game with a potential hamstring injury, but I'm not worried about it at all because, again, Baker Mayfield will continue to lead that team, and that guy's a beast. Nothing hurts him. He gets hit hard and he's going for the first down, everything. I love him. He's such a fun quarterback to watch. And we're still watching Danny Dimes.
It's not a fluke, guys. It's now week 3, 3 times a charm. I think it's a habit now for Daniel Jones. I think we can trust in him. If you were a little bit shaky of is that something I want to pick up if I need a quarterback? I think it's a good option. I do.
Absolutely. Now, one day he'll shit on us and we'll be shitting right back on Danny Dimes, but that's okay. Another great quarterback showing, surprisingly, Sam Darnold has been really leading the Seahawks offense quite competently. So another great streaming quarterback just to put in your back pocket here. We'll talk more about in a little bit. Running backs, obviously Jonathan Taylor. You picked him up and you are just so fucking happy that you did because he looks great. Kenneth Walker showed himself again in week number 3. So we're happy. Obviously with Sharp sideline that gave him all the work. Bijan still looking great despite the Falcons looking booty hole on week 3. Yeah, backs like Devon Achane and James Cook are still providing a lot of consistency for you. And Jordan Mason, we all said it. We said to look out for him this week. He said, I got you guys. He put fantasy on his back this week, and we love to see it. Again, the Vikings offense didn't look great, but Jordan Mason sure did look really good in week number 3 as well. And then your Monday night game, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs just ran and just fucked up the Ravens defense in tremendous levels. It was amazing.
Yeah, and they work so well together. You don't get frustrated when you see Gibbs go out and Monty come in or vice versa. You just know that they're working, the offense is working in the right way. They're doing the right thing. It's not, they're not stealing touches from each other. It's just a harmonious, I would imagine that they just are best buddies.
They are, right? I think they call themselves Sonic and what's the other Sonic guy?
Knuckles?
Knuckles, yes, that's what they call themselves.
Oh, yes.
So we love that for them. Other running back names just to mention, Cam Scatterbo, he was the only bright side of the New York Giants offense in week number 3. And Trey Benson will be stepping in for James Conner. So keep your eye on those guys as well. Wide receivers, Trey Tucker, holy shit, 3 touchdowns in week number 3 for the Raiders. However, ladies, take a deep breath. Do not go running for him and shipping him into your lineup. I've saw way too many people on social media. I'm getting Trey Tucker. I'm starting him. The Raiders offense is far too unpredictable for all that nonsense. We are not shipping him as a wide receiver 1, okay? Okay, cool. Emeka Buka still looked great. Even with some limited target share, we were worried about that potential injury, keeping him a little bit behind the football, but he still shown that one-handed catch early in the game. I was like, that's my boy. And now with Mike Evans out, good and bad news for Emeka Buka. Good news because he's got more targets. Bad news, he's probably going to get a little bit more defensive action. George Pickens just made him way up in the lineup with CeeDee Lamb probably missing time. So there's that as well. And Calvin Ridley, womp, womp, womp. He needs a theme song at this point. Shit, he sucks. Yeah.
He just needs to step up and has not done so.
Their offense is so unpredictable. All right, last here, tight ends. Hunter Henry for the Patriots. Whoa. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Vikings matchup in week 4, but the Steelers do suck against the tight end position. So Hunter Henry shined all the way through. Unfortunately, I did not start him on one of my leagues, and it is the heartburn of my life, but it's fine. Dallas Goedert made his way back into the mix as well, which is great. And then our other wide receivers, just for a notable mention that I forgot to circle back to, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith both really made their way back into the offense, which we told all of you guys to sit and wait. They couldn't maintain that run-heavy defense like they did last year. They're going to have to throw the ball, so just keep your eye on them as well. So some great takeaways there from week number 3. And let's go ahead and move into our rookie and vets of the week. Shall we, Ange?
So my rookie of the week this week is Amarian Hampton, finally showing up, finally being that guy for us, showing us why we drafted him so high. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but I'm also a little bit excited. But with the Najee injury, which we saw another Achilles, I could not imagine how painful just moving your leg the wrong way and snap. I mean, when you see it, you just go,
It's
you like shudder.
disgusting.
It's gross. But with Najee out, that obviously brings Amari Hampton more as the very clear lead back. He had a really great week 3. And he's going to, I think, continue to shine not only as a really great running back, but also as a pass catcher. He had 6 passes for 59 yards. So I think he's showing his dual threat ability there. I'm anxious to see how he's going to do against the Giants because he had a good showing against a strong Broncos defense. So he is my rookie of the week. Who is yours?
Rookie of the week. My rookie of the week is Cam Scattaboo, baby. He looks wonderful. He was the highlight of a really booty hole showing of the Giants in week number 3. Cam was just the beacon of hope, the double rainbow that we all needed from him. He not only had 10 attempts of 60 rushing yards, but he is elite in that short check down pass game. So 6 receptions for 61 yards, which is a PPR dream. So if you're in PPR league, Cam is definitely a must start in week number 4, specifically because Russell Wilson sucks when he gets pressured in the pocket. He's got to have a check down man, and Cam is his check down man. So we love Cam from week number 3. How about your vet of the week, Ange?
My vet of the week is no one other than Jonathan Taylor, who had a big boy game. He was just explosive. He was dominant in that Colts win. And it was really showed the Colts rebirth of the offense and how pivotal he is in that offense. He averaged 20 carries, 22.7 touches. He had 3 touchdowns. He was amazing. And I just cry a little bit because I had him a couple years ago as my first round pick. And then it was the curse of the first round. He went down and I'm just like, really, Johnny, you're doing me this dirty this many years later. But that's fantasy football.
That is fantasy football for you. My vet of the week is JSN. Jackson Smith-Njigba, baby. I mean, he is the clear focal point of the Seahawks offense. I love seeing them get him the ball. So he's so fun to watch. He had that fear of being sick and people were very nervous about if he was going to be limited. He said, no, I don't know what he had, but no stomach. I envisioned him vomiting in the toilet right before the game and being like, no stomach flu is going to stop me, baby. He went in there. He almost had his third 100-yard game, which he was so freaking close. But fear not, JSN will continue to be an elite wide receiver 1. I am trying to work so many goddamn trades to get that dude on my team, and everyone's like, nope. It's fine. That is our rookies and vets of the week. Let's go ahead and move into a little bit of an injury report. That way you guys are prepared of all injuries moving out of week number 3. So some notable injuries here from the running back room. James Conner out for the season-ending ankle injury. Najee Harris out for the season, Achilles tear. We already mentioned it. Tyrone Tracy is going to miss several weeks due to a shoulder injury in week number 3. We do not know the severity of it. Zach Charbonnet obviously did not go in week 3, and we're not sure what that's going to look like for week number 4, so keep your eye on it. Wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb left with an ankle sprain. He's going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. Guys like George Pickens, Jalen Tolbert, and Jake Ferguson are moving their way up in your lineup. Mike Evans left with a hamstring injury, undergoing an MRI. We'll wait for information for how much time he's going to be missing. Terry McLaurin exited week 3 with a quad injury. His week 4 status is unclear. Obviously, our quarterbacks in the room, there's still guys you want to keep on your radar that have been down. JJ McCarthy has been ruled out for week number 4, so Carson Wentz will go in week number 4 against Pittsburgh. Janian Daniels is still considered day-to-day, so keep an eye on him for week 4. Justin Fields still waiting on a decision at the point when we filmed this podcast anyways, so you might have a more updated information when you listen to this, but keep an eye on Justin Fields. Same thing with Brock Purdy. He is expected to come back in week number 4, but just make sure that all is a good to go. Tight ends, Isaiah Likely is still out dealing with a foot injury. Colston Loveland suffered a hip injury in week number 3. He was irrelevant for fantasy football anyways. Michael Mayer back up to Brock Bowers, left week 3 with a concussion, so keep your eye on that. Jatavian Sanders missing multiple weeks due to a high ankle sprain, so he is now a moot conversation. I liked him as a sneaky tight end target, but he's now a moot point, so we're going to forget about him. Players coming back to keep on your radar. Darren Waller is coming back, so keep your eye on him as a tight end option. Demarcus Robinson, his suspension was lifted, and he could be coming back for week number 4. He plays for the San Francisco 49ers, if you didn't know that. He, with Jennings potentially missing time in week 4, and Brandon Ayuk still out, Kittle still out, maybe someone to keep your eye on. Jordan Addison is back week 4 as well for the Vikings, so he will be someone we talk about when we go into our week 4 matchup. So that is your week 3 injury report. Let's move in to our entire sit starts for week number 4. Ange, go ahead and kick us off with your first game.
All right, so this week's first game that I'm going to cover is Seattle and Arizona. That is the Thursday night game, first game of the week. On the Seattle side, I think Sam Darnold is a start. I think he's not the flashiest pick. I don't think that obviously he's going to be your QB1 in your roster, in your lineup. If you're in a 2 QB league, if you need some kind of a deep flex option, I think he's a great option. I think he's a vet in that role. I think he can deliver. As far as wide receivers for Seattle go, Amanda already mentioned, the stud JSN. I think even while he was sick last week, he showed up and showed out. He is a steady option, should be locked in as your starter. Consistency is there. Now, when we come to wide receivers more wide receivers on Seattle, Cooper Kupp, I think, is a sit for me. I don't see him doing much. He's looking more like a wide receiver 3. I have a feeling, and this is just my thought, but I think that Torrey Horton is going to surpass him as wide receiver on that team. I think that he's going to kind of move up on the depth chart. So something to keep. I would start guys like Michael Pittman. I think I would even start Rashid Shaheed over Cooper Kupp in week 4.
I was just going to ask you that. Would you go Kupp or Shaheed? Yes. But I agree.
Look at that. We're on the same page. It feels weird to say, but it's just a reality. He's getting older. That's just a reality. And then running back, you got to start Kenneth Walker. Had another really awesome week 3, coming off of week 2, which was also great. And then really no relevant tight ends to mention. AJ Barner, kind of has shown some things on the Seattle side, but he's really nothing great to pick up. And then on the Arizona side, Kyler Murray, I think, is a strong start, even though he's going against a tough Seattle defense. His dual threat capability kind of makes him up higher. He has had over 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, only 1 pick through 3 weeks. So I think he's a good bet. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think people are a little bit disappointed again with Marv not performing like we hoped he would kind of brush off his first year and come into his sophomore season not in a slump, but it's happening. But I don't think that they really have many other options in Arizona. I mean, Trey Tucker, which we'll talk about, or Trey McBride, which we will talk about here in a minute. But I think, he doesn't really have any other reliable options. So he's the guy. I would definitely start Marvin Harrison over Calvin Ridley. So
oh my gosh,
there.
Please don't start Calvin over Marvin. No, he's still a wide receiver run. So sitting him at this point is probably not possible for your lineup.
It's probably not. No. And then running back, we already mentioned that James Conner's out for the season. Womp womp. I had him, so I am definitely on the lookout for a replacement. Now, girl, if you grabbed Trey Benson, you listened to all of our advice in the beginning of the season when we said, here's some great handcuffs, then you are literally doing that happy dance Amanda just did if you're watching on YouTube. But you're doing the happy dance because you can just plug him right into your lineup and you have no fear there. Okay. And then Trey McBride, again, really strong tight end, another really great target for Murray. So he is a must start as well.
I love it. All right, moving on to my first game of the week here, Saints versus the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, from the Saints side of the football, Spencer Rattler, he's a non-starter. Unless you're in a super flex and you need him, he's not getting started at any of your traditional leagues. So kind of a moot point here. The offense is a little bit hard to trust right now. So Olave obviously is a solid week 4 start. He's somebody who you're going to have to throw in your lineup, obviously. Rashid Shaheed, again, is just a questionable start decision. It depends on who you would be thinking about starting him over. I would be doing like a Josh Downs over a Rashid Shaheed. I would even go David Montgomery over Rashid Shaheed. Again, the offense is just a little bit hard to trust right now. We're not sure if we can fully trust Spencer Rattler in the quarterback position. So it's not a wide receiver I'm eager to throw in my lineup unless I'm desperate. But like Ange said, I would definitely be looking at a start for him over Cooper Kupp. I definitely agree with that. So Olave and Shaheed. Olave is a start. Shaheed is probably a sit unless you actually absolutely have to force him into your lineup. Kamara, I think, is a solid wide receiver. Running back 2 for week number 4. He's not going to be your guy, but he's going to at least be consistent with you for week number 4, so you can go ahead and throw him into your lineup. Juwan Johnson, do not question this. Put him in your lineup as if he's your tight end. Now, keep in mind that if you have 2 solid tight ends, I've seen a lot of people talk about Brock Bowers and Juwan Johnson both on their team because they picked Johnson up off of waivers. I love that for you. You can start one of those guys in your flex position. Typically, I never suggest you do that that with tight ends, but these tight ends are operating as faux wide receivers. So that is a beautiful decision to go ahead and make. So I love that. Juwan Johnson is a must start. And the defense from the Saints it's a non-starter. We're not even going to look at them starting against the Bills. Moving on to the Bills side of the football, your obvious start is quarterback Josh Allen. We do not need any other conversation there. Put him in your lineup. The wide receiver room for the Bills, it's becoming a very hard position to trust right now. Is Coleman going to continue to get the consistent role? It appears Shakir is a guy you can trust to at least get you like 6 to 10 points. He's going to get a few targets. He's going to get a few receptions. He'll get some points for you. In my opinion, these are not guys I'm eager to get started in this week. Now, they are facing the Raiders or the Saints defense, which hasn't been overly elite by any means. So you could force one of them into your lineup. I would prefer Shakir over Coleman due to the just standard consistency we've seen from Shakir and more volatile response from Coleman. These aren't guys that I'm really going to look at starting though, because again, it's just a gamble. And so if you can sit them down, they would be guys I look at sitting in week number 4. James Cook is an automatic start. Everyone doubted if he'd have production like he did from last year. He said, shut up. I can still perform just like that. He got paid and he's showing us he deserved to get paid. Tight end Dalton Kincaid. It looks like the offense is running through Dalton Kincaid. So I love him as a start. If you're able to stream him, if he's on waivers, pick him up. If you have him on your team, he's a great streaming tight end this week and potentially a tight end starter week to week until he shows us differently. The Buffalo Bills defense, nothing to write home about. Not really a defense I'm going to look to stream. Now they are facing Spencer Rattler, so like maybe you look at picking up the Buffalo Bills if you're desperate, but not somebody I'm going to preference in week number 4.
Okay, moving into my next game, Washington Commanders, Atlanta Falcons. For the Commanders, we are just on Jaden Daniels' watch, right? We are looking day to day, right, if he is going to come back or not. But Marcus Mariota did not disappoint us, right? He stepped in. He said, it's okay. I'm still here. I'm still relevant. Took over just fine. But if Daniels is active, I would plug him in. I would, not be looking to replace him with Mariota or anything of that nature. He's still that dual threat. And the Falcons defense have been vulnerable to quarterbacks. So I think that's a good bet there. For wide receivers, we have Deebo Samuel, we have Terry McLaurin. So Deebo Samuel, I think, is still a start. I think he's the most productive receiver. Didn't have the greatest of games in week 3, but he's still heavily involved in the offense, and they're even mixing him into the run game. So I think that just gives him a little bit more upside. That's the usage that we want. Terry McLaurin, now I know he is battling possibly a quad injury, but I wouldn't think that it's that serious. I think they pulled him out of the game, did not put him back in the game simply because they were up so much that it really wasn't worth it. He's been a little bit inconsistent, especially with Mariota. So kind of watch that if Mariota's in again for week 4. I think he's a little bit too shaky. I think there's guys like George Pickens, obviously with CeeDee Lamb being injured, or even Tedero McMillan that I would start over Terry McLaurin. I know I pulled him out of my lineup last week, and I wasn't mad about it. He didn't do great, but he didn't do bad, but he didn't do really great things.
Who'd you start over?
For the running, what's that?
Who'd you start over?
Well, I was going to just gloss over that because I am. This is my first year playing more than one league. So I'm a little bit like, okay, who do I have in what, right? So I'm a little bit frazzled, but I'm good now. But I had a Emeka Egbuka on my bench.
Oh,
and
no.
I don't know. Yeah. It wasn't a greatest, it wasn't a good, simultaneous flip. So I was like, why is he? So I flipped them. And I was a little nervous because I thought we had a lot of people asking us, well, what about his injury? Is he questionable? I trusted the gut, put Emeka in, no problems there. Obviously, he's the man. In the running back room for the Commanders, it's a little bit of a committee thing, right? We're looking at 3 committee backs, right? We're seeing Bill, we're seeing McNichols, we're seeing Rodriguez all kind of take snaps. So Bill, I would say, is probably a sit for me. I don't really trust him in there. I would start guys. This might be a little bit of a hot take, but like Judkins or Nick Chubb over Bill. Ooh. I think so. I think it's a little bit more solid that we know they're going to get more production than Bill, who's sharing snaps. Yes, he had a touchdown, but I think it's just being split too evenly for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely go Bill over Chubb in my opinion. But your other one, what was your other one?
Judkins.
Oh yeah, I would go Judkins over him as well. But Nick Chubb is touchdown dependent, but so is Bill. Bill's touchdown dependent right now.
Sure.
And we just don't know, Bill isn't a pass catching guy. So like he's not going to be used outside of the offense. He was never going to be only the lead back, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then to round out the Commanders, Zach Ertz for the tight end. He's old, reliable, scored in week 3, continues to be consistent. I would say he's a very safe play at tight end if you are looking for a tight end. And then the Commanders defense was impressive in week 3, had a great punt return, have great pressure on the quarterback. So I would fire them up for week 4 if you have them or need them. And then moving into the Falcons side, Michael Penix Jr. is a sit. Okay, the team even said, we're going to sit him. We're going to try Kirk Cousins in here, see what goes on. He is a no-go, so sit him. Drake London is a start. He is still the guy on the offense. He's seen a season high in targets last week. He's proving to be reliable. You have to start him. He's really the only guy they got on there anyways. When it comes to Darnell Mooney, his volume just isn't there. All of those throws are going to London, so makes Mooney just a little bit too risky. Sit him. Got to start Bijan. No questions there. And then Kyle Pitts, had a little bit of what I was calling it in my head? I was calling it toe-mageddon, where everyone was having some toe issue. Kyle Pitts was in that toe-mageddon talk, but he had a quiet week, but his upside is too big. You can't ignore him. He remains a focal point in the offense. You got to put him in your lineup. And then the Falcons defense is worth a look. They had 6 sacks in week 3, great pressure that they generate. Washington has weapons, but I think Atlanta's defense is definitely just something to look at.
Moving on, Pittsburgh versus the Vikings. This is a 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time game, international game, first international game of the NFL season. So, ladies, make sure you set your lineup before Sunday so you don't forget. I'm saying that for myself. Cool. All right, let's talk about Pittsburgh. They are up against the Vikings defense. We just saw the Vikings personally victimize the Bengals, okay? It was a whole Regina George situation. And yes, I'm worried for Pittsburgh this week. So let's keep that in mind as we go through this game. Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to be someone I'm looking at starting this week due to matchup purposes. If you're desperate, he could be somewhat consistent, but not someone I'm looking at. DK is safe. I'm starting DK this week. I still think he's going to be able to be used, but any of the wide receivers on the Pittsburgh side of the offense is not anyone I'm considering, aka don't look Calvin Austin's way. You go ahead and sit him down in week number 4. Jaylen Warren, I am worried about him against the Vikings defense. He is someone I would be cautious about in week number 4, but I'm probably still going to force him into my lineup. He still has a lot of good upside, specifically from a check down standpoint from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron said, I can trust him. We love when a quarterback comes out and says, I like that guy. Jaylen Warren's a beast. He's a little bowling ball. I'm throwing him in my lineup. I am a little bit hold my breath, clench my butt cheek situations for Jaylen Warren due to the defensive matchup, but I still think he's a solid week 4 start. Jonnu Smith could be a tight end stream if you're looking for one. Jonnu Smith over Pratt Freiermuth. So Pratt Freiermuth is not someone I'm looking at even considering. Arthur Smith loves Jonnu Smith, and so we could throw him in if you're looking for a potential upside tight end, and maybe someone just to consistently get you like at least 5 points if you're desperate there. Defense looked much better in week number 3 against the Patriots, so this could be a defensive start. Again, the Vikings offense did not look great last week, so if you still have Pittsburgh defense, you can go ahead and get them started in week number 4 as well. On the Viking side of the football, Carson Wentz is a non-starter for me. Again, unless you're in a super flex, this is not a conversation we're having right now. There are plenty of other guys like Sam Darnold or Geno Smith you could start over Carson Wentz. JJ is a must start. Don't even worry about it. Jordan Addison, guess who's back from suspension? Guess who's back? Jordan Addison's back, baby. Okay. He is a solid week 4 start. You can go ahead and throw him in your lineup. I know some people get nervous, like, should I wait for a week of production first? Probably fucking not. Go ahead and throw him on in.
And don't forget you have him if you do have him.
Oh my goodness. I know he was probably on PUP, so he's on your IR. So don't forget you have him. If for some reason he is still out there, you should pick him up. So yeah. Cool. All right. Running backs here. Jordan Mason. Absolutely. 16 targets in week 3, leading the backfield, 116 yards. 2 touchdowns. Hell yeah, Mason. We love to see it. Aaron Jones is going to be out until potentially week 8. So Jordan Mason's a consistent. Go ahead and throw him in your lineup. TJ Hawkinson. I mean, amazing. 5 receptions, 49 yards, and a touchdown in week 3. Looks like a solid target for Wentz, which we were suspicious about. Keep in mind that when you have a backup quarterback, they're less likely to throw those deep balls, right? I'm not worried about JJ. They'll figure out a way to get him the ball. But TJ Hawkinson's going to take some shorter passes. Same thing with Jordan Addison, take some shorter passes. So we love that for those guys. If you picked up the Vikings defense per our suggestion in week number 3, because we did suggest that, you keep them in your motherfucking lineup, babe. You roll on them again. So that is the Pittsburgh versus Vikings matchup in week 4.
All right, moving on to Cleveland and Detroit. And I'm going to go very quickly through Cleveland because there's not much to talk about in Cleveland. So Joe Flacco, you are sitting him, doesn't really give any great consistency there. Wide receivers on the Cleveland side, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman. I would also sit both of them. The offense is struggling very, very poorly. They have done kind of minimal things all season. I'd rather start guys like a Quentin Johnston or a Ricky Pearsall over those guys. So sit Jeudy and Tillman. On the running back side of the ball there, Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, I would sit. I would start Quinshon Judkins. I think he's very clearly the lead back role in Cleveland. He doesn't offer much as a pass catcher, but his explosiveness makes him worth it. So start him as your running back if you have him. And then on the tight end side, I would still start Njoku. I would still start Fannin Jr. I think they're still key pieces in the offense. I think they're reliable targets. If you need some depth as a, kind of a tight end, Fannin Jr. is kind of someone you can look at. And then the defense is no joke. We saw that. That was probably the biggest upset of the week was that Cleveland beat the Packers, which I thought was going to be a slaughtering. So their defense is no joke. So do not count them out. If you have them, plug them in. I think it's a good idea. And then on the Lions side, they just played last night. So we're seeing them kind of fresh out of Monday Night Football. But Jared Goff, I think, is a good start. I think that he is showing that he is still relevant, that he is still steady, throwing to his weapons. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got to start him. He's a target hog. You got to get him in there. Jamison Williams, I saw some great things with last night. I think he is also a great start in maybe a flex position. If you need somebody to kind of maybe take on that role, I think he's a good option. And then we talked about Jahmyr Gibbs. We talked about David Montgomery. I think they are great solid starts. I think they work really, really great together. They're doing great things in Detroit. Sam Laporta, I think, is one of the most consistent fantasy tight ends. I also saw him do like a big daddy baller block on a play. So he's just like that guy with his mustache being like, get out of my way. And then I think that the defense is a good start for Detroit. There's playmakers all over the field, but they're worth starting against an inconsistent Browns offense.
Agreed. I love it. Awesome. Let's go Tennessee Titans and Houston Texans. So the Titans this is a shit matchup, by the way. So like not a fun time to talk about. However, Titans are playing against the Texans, who are currently weak in the secondary of their defense and have faced challenge against the run. This makes Tony Pollard someone to think about here in week number 4. So Cam Ward, non-starter. Don't even worry about that. In the wide receiver room, we have Calvin Ridley and Alec. I'm not even going to say his last name. Okay. Io Manor. Okay. Cause like I always try to add an extra vowel in there or whatever. It is never good. So Alec Io Manor is, in my opinion, I would look at him over Ridley. So if you're looking at starting a wide receiver, because again, the Texans secondary is weak. So I do like the wide receiver of Alec this week. I wouldn't force Calvin Ridley into my lineup, and then you'll hear more later, but I'm
gonna contradict yourself.
I'm gonna contradict myself, the shit out of myself. However, Calvin Ridley, I'm gonna tell you to sit for now, okay? Alec, I would say, is a great option. I would go Alec over Waddle. I would go Alec over Shaheed. I would go Alec over Jamison Williams as well. So those are all guys that I would like. I think they have a little more consistency upside than those other guys. Running back Tony Pollard, I already aired on this. You go ahead and throw him in your lineup in week number 4, okay? Chig Okonkwo.
I don't know how to say that one. I can
cool.
literally
Chig,
not help you there.
The tight end for the Tennessee Titans, solid streaming tight end. Again, you can probably get some consistent, 5 to 8 points from Chig if you're looking for just a consistent, reliable tight end there. Defense, not a start for week number 4. Moving on to Houston. Jesus Christ, CJ Stroud does not look good. So you're going to sit down CJ Stroud. You know what I'm really worried about? I'm really worried that they're going to fire DeMeco Ryan, and he's so hot.
Oh, no.
And then I'm not going to be able to stare at him. I was like, Drew was like, they're going to fire him. And I was like, no. He is like,
do it for DeMeco.
Do it for DeMeco. He's the sexiest NFL coach, in my opinion. Oh, he's so hot. I love it. All right. So CJ Stroud is a sit. Wide receiver, Nico Collin. Absolutely. You continue to start him. He is the only notable wide receiver I'm looking at starting on the Texans side of the football, though. Moving on to our running back, Nick Chubb here. I mean, in a pinch, if you were desperate, sure. But like, I would go Pollard, Warren, Swift, all ahead of Chubb.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to throw Chubb in if I am taking a flyer and I am freaking, again, desperate. Keep an eye on, not someone you're starting right now, but keep your eye focused on Woody Marks here. It looks like he's going to be the second back behind Chubb and probably take over that backfield at some point. And if the old man, Nick Chubb, injury-prone Chubb goes down, Woody Marks will make his way into the scene, so keep your eye on him. Dalton Schultz is not someone I'm eager to start, but someone you can count on for consistency fantasy points. 5 to 8 points is a consistent tight end option here for Dalton Schultz. I just think he's slow as fuck. So I'm not eager to start him as a tight end. I would go like a Fanning over Schultz, because I'll take the upside of Fanning over the consistent floor of Dalton Schultz. Defense, absolutely not starting them for the Houston Texans in week number 4.
All right, moving into Carolina Panthers, New England Patriots. On the Carolina side, I would sit Bryce Young. He showed a little bit of rushing upside, but he really only threw for 122 yards against a really, really crappy week 3 team. And they ended with 30-0. So the Panthers took a win with 30 points, but he only threw for 122 yards. So keep that in mind. Think about that. Not worth it to get him in the lineup. You got to start Ted McMillan. He is getting all of the volume. He's the team's leading receiver and should thrive against a vulnerable Patriots secondary. Must start. Chuba Hubbard, I think, is also a really good start. He had a solid week 3. I think he's a solid running back 2 this week. Not really any tight ends to mention on the Carolina Panthers. Defense, they kind of are starting to turn it around. Maybe worth a look in deeper leagues, but I wouldn't put them in. This could have just been a fluke. And then when it comes to the New England Patriots, I think Drake May is still a start. I know he had a couple iffy things happen in week number 3, but I think that he's still strong against the Carolina defense. I think he's a safe start. Then we get into the wide receivers. So I like Keyshawn Big Boutte. I think he is a good start. I think that on this kind of what Amanda was just saying about Alec Iomanner, I think that kind of is giving me the same vibes for Keyshawn Boutte. I think that he is maybe a little bit more consistent, a little healthier target than Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, I haven't really seen great things with. Now, he is getting older. I know that there's some things going on with him, but I think he's still an alpha wide receiver. I think he still has talent. I just am maybe not trusting him as much as maybe I would have a couple of years ago. I probably wouldn't bench him, but I would be a little bit more tentative of him. I think Boutte is the more reliable target in that New England's offense. Ooh, and then the very, very sad running backs in New England, Ramondre Stevenson, I would sit him. I know Amanda mentioned to sell him. If you could get rid of him, I would get rid of him. Two fumbles in week 3 is just very, very scary. We kind of saw this happening, and I think we see Travion Henderson going to be stepping into that lead back role. So if you have him, it's someone to watch. And then Hunter Henry had a giant game as tight end in the New England week 3. I think he's a must start. Strong chemistry with Drake May. Hopefully Amanda listens to our own advice and starts him next week.
All right, next up we have the Chargers versus the Giants. So on the Chargers side of the football here, we have Justin Herbert, a little bit of a downturn in week 3 from a points in fantasy, but he still had 300 passing yards. Keep in mind that Justin Herbert is a pocket passer, so if he's not getting a lot of passing touchdowns, it's going to hurt his overall fantasy scoring points, but you can rely heavily on that offense, so go ahead and start Justin Herbert in week number 4. Wide receivers to start. Keenan Allen, absolutely shove him in your lineup. He could be, quite honestly, the best late round pick of the year for fantasy football. Same thing with Quentin Johnston. I would still continuously give him the start. Allen and Johnston are getting far more targets or far more fantasy production than Ladd McConkey. Am I sitting Ladd McConkey down? Maybe, if my roster can allow it. Am I going to be eager about that? No, I'm probably going to have to put Ladd McConkey into my lineup. However, if for some reason you have other favorable options over Ladd, that could be something you risk it for the biscuit and make the decision on. Because again, he just hasn't been quite getting the targets that Allen and Johnston have been. Running back Omari and Hampton, absolutely must start with Najee's injury. We already talked on that. There's really no tight end relevance at this point. And then from a defensive standpoint, the Chargers could be a solid stream against the New York Giants. Again, we know that Russell Wilson struggles with any pressure on him, and the Chargers typically tend to be a good, solid pass rush. So I do think this would be a solid defensive stream in week number 4. On the other side of the football, the New York Giants, don't you dare think about Russell Wilson. I know some of you saw his week 3 game and you're like, oh my God, Russell, get the fuck out of here with your Russell talk. He's not good, okay? The moment he is pressured, struggles, he's going to be replaced soon. Mark my words for it. We see Malik Neighbors getting the shaft. And this is just what's going to happen with a volatile quarterback like Russell Wilson. You're not sitting Malik Neighbors, though. You're starting Malik Neighbors. You could potentially think about sitting down Wan'Dale Robinson, though. This is kind of like a risky sit-start decision. Again, think about it this way. If Russell is getting pressured, he's likely going to need to check down the ball to quicker short passes, which is Wan'Dale's role. So I don't hate Wan'Dale in this matchup, but it definitely does give me pause, and I would start guys like Waddle, Williams all over Wan'Dale in week number 4. So make your decision there. You're starting Cam Skattebo. Don't even think about it. The tight end, non-starter for me on the Giants side, Theo Johnson. He's not someone I'm looking at starting. And the New York Giants defense, it's a no for me, dog. Okay? If you watched American Idol back in the day, that's a no for me, dog. All right? Cool. Moving on. Go ahead, Ange.
All right, Philly and Tampa Bay. On the Philly side, you got to start Jalen Hurts. It's kind of an automatic start. You got to go with them. Wide receiver, the passing game opened up in week 3. I think it's going to continue to do so. So start AJ Brown, start Devontae Smith. And then you can't not trust Saquon Barkley, even though he had a little bit of a bum week in week 3. No, you got to start him. Dallas Goedert, I think, also is a solid mid-level streaming option with some upside. He's hopefully stays healthy. So get him in there if you have him and need him. And then the defense, yes, they gave up 26 points last week, but Philly's still dominant. Phil still has a very dominant defensive unit. And we love a big man touchdown. And a big man touchdown happened in week number 3. Let's see more of them on that special team side. And then for Tampa Bay, we talked about how great Baker is, but you got to start Baker. So he's putting up solid numbers. Wide receivers, we're watching Mike Evans to see what happens with that hamstring. I think he's had some soft tissue injuries in the past. I don't see it being a great thing, but that just means Emeka Egbuka is going to step up even more as a trusted target for Baker. So he is a must start. And then Chris Godwin, if he's active, I know we've kind of been watching Chris Godwin, but if he is expected to play, the Eagles have struggle covering slot receivers. Chris Godwin is a slot receiver, so that could be really a good thing, is where he thrives. So might be something to think about. Bucky Irving, you got to start lead role in the backfield. Yes, the Eagles defense is tough, but I think he has the volume to definitely be a starting option. And then I would kind of keep an eye on Cade Otton. I think with the possible kind of injury to Mike Evans, he might be a more relevant player and a really reliable target for Baker Mayfield. So don't expect any big old fireworks from Cade Otton, but someone to keep on your radar. And he would be a sit. I'm not saying start him unless you're desperate for a tight end. I would say, the Buccaneers defense, they're facing Philly, who's very high powered. I probably wouldn't give them a start this week, but they have been showing pretty strong things.
What about a Rashad White? That's a big streaming question for a lot of people.
I'm sorry,
should I throw him in my lineup or not?
I probably would still just be on the Bucky side. I really wouldn't dabble in the Rashad White, kind of fanfare. Maybe keep an eye on him as a good, solid kind of second fiddle to Bucky Irving. But I would probably say stay away from him for now until we see some more consistent production from him.
Yeah, unless you're desperate. Like if your entire running back room has just been absolutely ran through, then sure, absolutely, you can throw him in your lineup, but just someone to keep an eye on for now.
Yeah.
Moving on here to the Colts versus Rams. So love this showing. Daniel Jones, again, you can continue to stream him. We're going to continue to say start him until he shows us otherwise, okay? He looks great so far. He's consistent. He's reliable. Go ahead and throw him in your lineup. From the wide receiver, we love this matchup with a banged up secondary for the Rams. So this is going to look great for Daniel Jones. This is also going to look great for their wide receiver 1, Michael Pittman. You are starting Michael Pittman every single week. This is also going to look really good for Josh Downs. Josh Downs is a great start this week, specifically because Alec Pierce did suffer a concussion in week number 3. So he's questionable for week 4. If Alec Pierce is out, that just elevates Josh Downs to even more targets. So I love Josh Downs in week number 4. He's definitely a little bit of a risky start, but I would throw him in my lineup for sure. I've got him. I'm playing him. Jonathan Taylor, no question, start him. Tyler Warren, no questions, start him. From the Colts side of the defense, there is some injuries in the quarterback department, which is a concern as they do struggle against the run, and they also struggle in the secondary against the Rams. So this is probably going to look really good for Kyren and Puka. So I'm probably not going to be looking at starting the Colts defense in week number 4. The Rams, though, Matt Stafford, he's really not an option, but he is also an option if you need a quarterback, right? So he is going to be a more favorable option over guys like Michael Penix. I would still like Geno Smith or Matt Stafford. I'd probably just be more comfortable with Matt Stafford's offensive weapons than Geno Smith's offensive weapons. So I'd go Matt Stafford over Geno Smith. So if you're really desperate, like, sure, go for it. Definitely Matt Stafford over Russell Wilson. But for the most part, we're probably looking at sitting a Matt Stafford. Wide receiver, hell yes. Puka Nacua, hell yes. Devontae Adams, don't think about it. Just shove them in your lineup, okay? They look great. Kyren Williams is a consistent running back start. Blake Corum is a sit, unless, again, you are absolutely desperate. I would do a Nick Chubb over a Corum. Obviously, Corum's still going to get some action, so he's not worthless, right? But he is an RB2 to Kyren Williams, RB1. Tight end, there's really no option here for a reliable tight end on the Rams. And then, again, this would not be a solid streaming option for me. There's a lot of injuries on the Rams defense, so they're not someone I'm eager to get started in week number 4.
All right, next up, we got Jacksonville Jaguars, San Francisco 49ers. On the Jacksonville side, sit Trevor Lawrence. He has not done anything great. He hasn't thrown a touchdown since week 2. He is a sit for me. On the wide receiver side, Brian Thomas Jr., oh boy. I am cautiously starting him because there really is nobody else for Trevor Lawrence to look for, even though he hasn't really been looking for him, right? He just looks at BTJ and says, now I'll go to somebody different, right? Yeah. Yes, he had a big play last week, but he's been dropping a lot of passes. That is concerning. He is a risky flex play, but if you have a better option, think about it. It's really hard for me to say that because he was drafted so freaking high. And it's just been a little bit of a bust, right? Travis Hunter, again, I would also sit him, not really doing anything. I think they're just still trying to figure out where do we want to use him in the offense, in the defense. I don't know. Running backs, Travis Etienne is kind of the clear back and the clear kind of like shining light on that team. So you have to start him. Even with Tootin getting some touches, Etienne's workload and talent keep him as a strong RB2. I would be watching Bashal Tootin still as well. Stash him if you need somebody. He's not really a very reliable, I think, starter yet, but I think he is someone to keep on your radar over some other players. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I'm starting Bashal Tootin. I'm in.
Oh, okay.
I think that backfield's going to slowly start to shift away, and I think Bashal Tootin's a great week 4 start.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Brenton Strange, kind of low-end starter. He's not flashy, but he is really kind of part of the offense that's really kind of struggling for playmakers. So he's I almost said a strange, safe tight end 2 option. And then do not even think about the Jacksonville defense against San Francisco.
No, only wide receiver that we didn't get to, Parker Washington for the Jags. He's been a solid feature.
Yes.
In their offense. So I think he's not someone I'm starting, but someone I'm continuously going to keep an eye on because for some reason it looks like Trevor Lawrence fucking hates Brian Thomas Jr.
Right. Right.
Okay. You will throw the ball at anyone, fucking Parker Washington over your number 1 wide receiver. So I would say that at this point, Parker Washington is elevating above Travis Hunter in my opinion too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I totally glossed right over him. I apologize. All right. Moving into San Francisco. Just like we were on Jaden Daniels' watch, we are also on Brock Purdy watch. If he is cleared to start for week 4, he is a solid option. If not, Mac Jones fills in. He's not as strong of a player as Brock Purdy, but I think he's been doing great things. I think he's been showing us that he is still a relevant quarterback. Hey, I can still do good things for a team. In wide receivers, Ricky Pearsall is a start. He had a bomb-ass game on week 3. Finally seeing Ricky Dicky, as Amanda likes to call him, step up. He's reliable and productive. We're still kind of watching Juwan Jennings. I don't think it looks like he's going to be in for week 4, but we'll kind of say kind of a day-to-day injury watch. Running back Christian McCaffrey is a must start. Don't overthink it. Add him to your lineup. it's a little bit concerning how many touches he's getting. And you might be a little bit scared because he's a little bit of an old man, but we will see. I think it's still a good thing. And then we're still, George Kittle is still out. Hopefully, I think week 5 he was projected to be back. So we're moving toward that. But he's, don't obviously still an out.
Moving on to Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw the Ravens play last night and some interesting showings from that side of the ball. So let's start with the Ravens here. Quarterback Lamar Jackson, oh my gosh, yes, keep starting him. Zay Flowers, you still want to start him week number 4, even though he had a bad week 3 showing. This is where I think a lot of women, when it comes to fantasy football, we make mistakes. Now, number one, right, we just make that like gut instinct of he had a bad week, I have to sit him. You don't want to make that mistake. We saw way too many people make that mistake with Courtland Sutton after week number 3 because he had 1.6 points. And then he brought the house down in week number 3. So I want you to not let just one poor week make your decision. So Zay Flowers is a good week 4 start. Derrick Henry, a must start. Don't question it. I know he came off a rough week 2 and a mid week 3, but I'm really not worried about him. Keep starting him in your lineup. Mark Andrews. In typical Mark Andrews fashion, he does nothing, boom, brings the house down. Week 3 showing that shut us all up, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Holy fucking shit. Yeah, I'd throw him in my lineup in week 4. It does appear that the Ravens want to make him a focal point of the offense. So I think he's a solid week 4 streaming tight end, specifically if someone gave up on him. Pick that bad boy up. Defense is still a great streaming option. I know they've had a couple bad showings. They've also played a really few hard games and some hard matchups here. So I still do feel consistent with them with the Kansas City offense on the other side of the football. So moving over to Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is still a solid week 4 start. Week 3 looked fine. He's not like, I'm not eager to put him in my lineup, but if I'm deciding between like a Mahomes or, a Caleb Williams or a Cam Ward or Patrick and Matthew Stafford, something like that, I'm going to go Patrick over those guys. However, again, strong pass rush against the who am I even talking about? Oh, Baltimore has a good, strong pass rush. I was like, where's my brain at? Moving on to the wide receivers for the Kansas City side of the football. Hollywood Brown, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 42 yards, no touchdowns. So only 8.2 points. But however, with a lot of injury and suspension, Hollywood Brown is still a solid start. Juju is not someone I'm looking at starting. I know he got a little bit more action in week number 3, but I'm still not eager to throw him in my lineup. Xavier Worthy, just keep an eye on it. He might be able to return. He practiced a little bit last week. So some rumblings there. The running back room. I'm not starting Isaiah Pacheco. Like, I'm just not doing it. I'm sitting him down and I'm starting, like, I would rather start a Nick Chubb over Isaiah Pacheco because I think Nick Chubb has more upside. Isaiah Pacheco's not looked good. Kareem Hunt's not looked good. I'm sitting down the running back room. Travis Kelce is still a solid start. He's going to get, a consistent 5 to 8 points, like we said, with most mid-tier tight ends. He just isn't the Travis Kelce we wanted him to come and end his season with. He's still missing a lot of stuff. He doesn't look like he's given his whole ass out there, in my personal opinion. Maybe he'll continue to show us wrong, though. Defense, I would not be targeting them against the Ravens offense in week number 4.
Moving into Chicago and Las Vegas Raiders. On the Chicago side, I think Caleb Williams is a start. In maybe a 2-quarterback league, I have him as my second quarterback in that league. I think he is a great flex option there for me. That's where I have him, and for you as well. Wide receivers, Rome Odunze is just really showing us that he is that wide receiver 1, strong target, chemistry with Caleb, safe start. DJ Moore, I think, is still a start. I think he's just too big of a player and too big of a role in that offense to sit him. I know he hasn't been showing the usage that we maybe want, but I think I'm starting to kind of see him as someone to keep an eye out, but he might be fading, but don't put him on your bench. DeAndre Swift is a start, gets a lot of the workload. Pass catching involvement is there. He is a solid RB2 and a start. Cole Kmet, I think, is someone to look at. I think he's still a big red zone option. I would keep him in your lineup. I don't think he would be mid-tier tight end, maybe a lower end tight end, but someone to kind of look at and not forget about, as a tight end. Yeah.
And with Colston Loveland potentially being out, that makes him the clear highlight too.
Exactly. Correct. And then defense is not really reliable against a Raiders offense with a sneaky upside, I would probably not start the Bears offense or defense. I do that all the time. Offense, defense. Just get it right, Ange. All right. And then for the Raiders, Geno Smith, I think is a viable start in a 2-quarterback or deep leagues. He had a great week 3, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. Bears defense has struggled against the pass. I think he's more of a viable streaming option this week. Jacoby Myers, I think, is a definite start. Very reliable target hog. Trey Tucker, we already kind of talked about it. Again, we're not getting him and plugging him in, right, ladies? We are thinking about it just a little bit. I think he's someone to have. He had an explosive week 3, but does that mean he's always going to be explosive week in and week out? Maybe not. Maybe we'll see. Stash him. Maybe flex later if desperate. And then Ashton Genty, there's been a lot of talk about poor Genty. Is he really the guy? What should we do with him? I would still start him. I think he is still a start. He is having a slow start. But we have to remember, he's a rookie. What do we think he's going to do? Just bust out and start showing us big things? Give him a little bit of time. I mean, we're seeing that with Amari and Hampton. He's starting to show his true colors now in past week 3. And the Raiders drafted him very, very high. They're going to rely on Genty. So he's not going anywhere. So still start him. And then Brock Bowers, yes, is still struggling with that knee injury. He is still a start for me. And then the defense, too much of a risk against the Bears. I would just not start the defense either for the Raiders.
Absolutely. All right. Green Bay versus the Cowboys. I almost say Green Bay versus the Packers. Green Bay Packers at Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to start with Green Bay side of the football. Jordan Love, I think he's a solid option for your quarterback. Again, if you're facing one of the many quarterback injuries, he could be someone you throw in your lineup. However, I would go Herbert and Goff over Jordan Love simply because I trust Herbert and Goff's offense far more than I trust Jordan Love's offense. I think Jordan Love is a good quarterback. The Green Bay Packers look really good. I just don't think I'm going to get as many points from Jordan Love as I would potentially get out of Herbert or Goff. So that's just my personal opinion. Wide receivers, incredibly hard wide receiver room to trust. At this point, it is like roulette. You are hoping that maybe your team hits, right? Or your player hits. So we've got Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, and Matthew Golden. Now, in my opinion, the only guy I would take a shot on is Matthew Golden. I'm not going to start Doubs. I'm not going to start Wicks. I just don't know enough about those players to trust them scoring points. However, the Dallas Cowboys defense looks like ass. So there is an upside there. I just think Josh Jacobs is going to get most of the work this week. So Josh Jacobs is a must start for me. If Tucker Kraft continues to remain healthy, he's a must start. We did see how he played in week number 3, but he was more just a decoy guy. He did not get a ton of action. We're hoping that changes in week 4. Just keep an eye on his injury. If he is more in the fully healthy status, he's a must start. He is kind of acting as a little faux wide receiver there and is a solid target for Jordan Love. Defense from the Packers, great streaming option. If they're out there, I love them against the Cowboys as well. Moving on to the Cowboys side of the football, Dak. I'm worried about him facing Micah Parsons as he comes up against his old team. So this is something to keep your eye on. I'm still probably going to force Dak into my lineup because most of us are probably a little bit desperate, but I would probably favor Jordan Love over Dak Prescott in week number 4. But Dak is a solid start if you got to go for him. He's got weapons. So again, his offense is there for him. It's more quarterback urgency though. Wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, injured, missing time. So obviously we're sitting him down. George Pickens is a lovely start this week. I think it's going to be a great option. Jalen Tolbert also could be a sneaky wide receiver start option if you're fucking desperate. But I do like Tolbert over some of our other midline guys. I like Tolbert over Trey Tucker. I like Tolbert over Waddle. Maybe. I was not going to say Waddle, though. I was going to say Cooper Kupp. I like Tolbert over Cooper Kupp. Maybe Tolbert over Waddle. Maybe Tolbert versus Jameson Williams is conversations. But I just think Waddle and Williams have a little bit more apparent usage in their offense. Tolbert, it would be a shot in the dark, but he is going to get elevated snaps due to CDD and out. Javonte Williams, slight downturn in week 4, but I still think he's a solid week 4 start. A little worried about him against the Green Bay defense, but we did see Quinshon Judkins still be able to perform against the Green Bay defense, so that is hopeful for Javonte. I would say if I'm thinking Javonte or DK or J.K. Dobbins, I would go J.K. Dobbins over Javonte Williams in week number 4. Tight end Ferguson, absolutely throw him in your lineup. And then I would not even think about starting the Dallas defense.
No. No, stay away. All right. And then my last game matchup here and last game to cover for myself, New York and Miami. On the New York side, we're still waiting to see the Justin Fields kind of what's going to happen. I think he's unlikely to play in week 4. So that puts Tyrod Taylor back in. I think they're both sits. I wouldn't really do anything there with Tyrod Taylor as quarterback. Wide receiver, you have to start Garrett Wilson. Who else do the New York Jets have? Garrett Wilson is all they got. He's the only pass catcher there. He's been averaging 75 yards per game. Must start, especially against a weak Dolphins offense or a defense. Oh my gosh, there I did it again. And then Breece Hall is another start. Yes, he had a little bit of a disappointing week, but he's still being involved as a receiver. Too talented to be on your bench. So start Breece. Nothing really worth mentioning in the tight end position. Defense, Jets defense is usually always startable, but Miami might be maybe a little bit of a tougher matchup. Only if you don't have better options, I would say to stream the Jets defense.
Ooh, I love the Jets defense against Tua Tagovailoa pick thrower. Oh yeah. I love the Jets defense this week. So I would say the Jets defense is an auto start for me unless for some reason they take a huge fall off a cliff. But yeah, against Tua, put a little pressure on Tua and let's see some picks, baby.
Yes. All right. And then on the Dolphin side, Tua, I'm going to sit. Struggling with turnovers, not the greatest. Again, like Amanda just said, facing that Jets defense, bench him. Wide receivers, I would definitely still start Tyreek Hill. I think he needs to be in your lineup no matter what, even with quarterback struggles. Jalen Waddle, on the other hand, is a little bit more of an iffy thing. Now, last week I thought, maybe we don't start him, and then he had a little bit more production last week. I would say if he's healthy, he could still be involved. I think he's still a top target next to Hill. He would still be in my starting lineup if I needed him. But there are definitely players we mentioned a little bit earlier about who would start over him. And then Devon Achane for running back is a definite start. Explosive dual threat coming off a couple great games. Ollie Gordon is someone to watch. We've talked about Ollie Gordon in the past. I think he's getting some goal line touches, which is interesting. I think he's a very clear handcuff to Achane. So if Achane were to go down, he is the guy that you need to have on your bench. He is a startable option in the future if needed. No really tight end to be kind of looking at here for the Miami offense. And then defense, sit them. Don't do anything against the matchup. I just wouldn't even think about the Miami defense at this point.
No, absolutely not. That is our player to watch coming back, though. Darren Waller is coming back for the Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
Now, again, I probably wouldn't start him in week 4, but you might be on the lookout for Darren Waller making an entry back in and potentially being on the waivers here in the future. Okay. So my final game here is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Denver Broncos. Cincinnati really had they're going to have 2 black eyes from the defenses because they went up the Vikings and got their ass handed to them on a silver platter. And now they get the fucking Broncos. RIP to the Cincinnati entire team. So let's talk about it. Jake Browning. No. Now, how does Jake Browning in quarterback affect Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? It's scary. So you're still starting Jamar Chase. You drafted him number 1 overall. You're not sitting down Jamar Chase. However, he's probably going to get the Surtain treatment in week number 4. So my thoughts here is you're starting Jamar Chase. You're probably starting T. Higgins, but you're probably holding your breath. Now, my hope is because Jamar is going to be covered so well that T. Higgins gets open passes. He was targeted in week number 3. Jake Browning sucked. And I hope for a bounce back week. I'm not going to completely full send and say they're done. All the players are unstartable. I'm not going to doomsday on it. Give it a minute. I'm for sure starting Jamar Chase, and I'll take a flyer on T. Higgins in week number 4, and I'll be let down. That's fine. I don't know if I would throw in, if you look at a Waddle over T. Higgins, I don't think I would go Waddle. I think I'd go potential upside of T. Higgins over Waddle. Same thing with Jamison Williams versus T. Higgins. I think I like the better upside of T. Higgins than Jamison Williams. That's just my personal opinion. Do as you will with that. I'm sure we'll get asked that question a million times. Probably the most popular question I've got asked on social media is, what the fuck do I do with Chase Brown, Amanda? And honestly, I don't know. In my opinion, your roster probably has to maintain him starting. Unless for some reason you have Jordan Mason and Trey Benson. If you happen to draft those guys, took a flyer on Mason and now he's a starter, took a flyer on Benson as a handcuff to Connor and now he's a starter, yeah, Mason and Benson over Brown in week number 4 for sure. If you can sit him down, I'd probably even start like a JK, a Javonte Williams, a Jordan Mason, a Trey Benson. I'd go David Montgomery all over Chase Brown, in my opinion, right now. Until I can see him perform a little bit better. They're just like, O-line is terrible. It doesn't look good for the Bengals this year right now. There's no primary tight end to even think about, and the defense is a no. Period. Okay, cool. Denver Broncos. Bo Nix is definitely a starter for week number 4. Again, we're all a little bit nervous. Is he going to continue to perform? But he looked better in weeks 2 and 3. So I'm excited for Bo, specifically against booty hole Bengals defense. So I love that for him. Wide receiver Sutton is a start. Wide receiver 1. You learned a lesson if you sat him down after a crappy performance. You go ahead and throw him in your lineup. There's going to be weeks where these top guys don't perform. It's just the nature of fantasy football. Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin. So this is like the conversation. Marvin Mims has 4 targets. Troy Franklin had 4 targets. So like, who really is the clear wide receiver 2? If I had to make a choice here, I would probably go Franklin over Mims. That's just my opinion. There was some really big deep balls from Bo Nix to both Mims and Franklin and Sutton that just went slightly missed. Bo makes a few of those catches. You're really happy with Bo, and you're really happy with one of these receivers. So I would preference Franklin over Mims. That's just my personal opinion. And I would say Booty or Franklin. I would probably go Booty over Franklin in that conversation. I would definitely go Franklin over Stephon Diggs, though. Probably not a popular decision, but I'd risk it for the biscuit on it. I like J.K. Dobbins this week. I would go J.K. Dobbins over Devontae Williams. I aired on that already. I think J.K. is going to bode well with the Bengals defense. Evan Ingram out for week 3. We're not sure what's happening for week 4. Keep your eye on it, but I'm not eager to start him in week 4, regardless if he's back or not. And the Denver Broncos is a must start. A lot of people dropped them because they did have one shitty showing, which again is going to happen. So if someone dropped him and you have them, good for you. I'd keep them on my roster until the bye week for sure. So that wraps up all of our week 4 matchup, friends. We are super excited to kick off the next week of fantasy football in week number 4. So let's go ahead and wrap the show with our sweet and spicy starts of the week. Ange, let's go ahead and start sweet. Give me your sweet start of the week.
So my sweet start of the week is AJ Brown. And everybody said, oh no, what do we do? And Amanda said one of the biggest questions that we've been having is the Chase Brown conversation. I think the second biggest question was, what do I do with AJ Brown? Do I keep him? Do I sell him? What do I do? Do I hold out on him? If you held out on him, which we're only in week 3, let's tone it down a little bit, then you did the right thing because he was here to play. Like I said, the passing game was a lot more prevalent in week 3. 6 receptions, 109 yards, 1 touchdown, marking his first 100-yard receiving game of the season. I think he is just going to keep being up from there. I don't think we will see him sitting on the sidelines reading a book anytime soon. So
I hope not. Bring back the diva AJ Brown, baby. I love that sweet start of the week. My sweet start of the week is Trey Benson. With the exit of James Conner out for the year, this elevates him to the starting running back role, and I think he is as sweet as they come. So I love that for a start for you. Again, if you ended up drafting him late in rounds, handcuffing him whether you had James Conner or not, good for you, babe, because he's going to be a great starter in week number 4 and for the future if he stays healthy. Spicy starts the week, and these ones are spicier than spice. This is what's the decibel for spiciness on the Spice Rider? Do you know what that is? Do you know what it's called?
I don't.
Scone.
Scoville.
Y'all know what we're talking about, right?
Yes. This is like Carolina Reaper level.
Yes.
Spicy.
Chugging a gallon of milk, spicy.
Yes. I sniff it in a mile radius and I'm like, no. But my spicy pick of the week is Romeo Doubs. I think that we've talked about it a little, that the poo-poo Cowboys defense is a really big upside for Doubs, right? He's played the most snaps, ran the most routes of any Packers coming off of week 3, gives him some juice. I think the Packers have something to prove. They just lost against the poo-poo booty hole Browns. So I think we saw Detroit come back in that second week and be like, okay, we just had an off week, guys. I think the Packers are going to do the same thing. I think it's going to be a big scoring game. I think Doubs is going to be involved heavily. And no team is allowing more fantasy football points to wide receivers than Dallas. So spicy Carolina Reaper level Romeo Doubs for week 4. Well, who is
Spicy.
yours?
Oh,
Spicy,
it's so
spicy.
spicy. Oh, it's so spicy. Okay. I'm going to hate myself for this, and I'll hate
gross.
myself next week when it
Amanda
doesn't
said
work.
she felt disgusted.
I felt
even saying
disgusting even saying it. But my spicy start of the week is Calvin Ridley. Womp, womp, womp. But here's the thing. Very similar to Ange, we're facing a defense of the Houston Texans who gives up a lot of points to the wide receiver. So I am excited for the matchup here. And I am hopeful that maybe Calvin Ridley is throwing an absolute fucking diva temper tantrum, because that's what wide receivers should do. Okay. Give me my diva wide receivers. I want him to be throwing a fit. I want him to be pissed in that locker room, looking at Cam Ward like, give me the fucking ball, bro. And I hope that he does get Calvin Ridley the ball, because if for some reason Calvin Ridley comes out as the star of the show, I will be riding my high horse. And if he doesn't, I will be hiding under my desk, and that's fine. I'll take the shot on it. But that's why it's a spicy start of the week. It could bode very terribly for you. But that is my spicy start of the week, is Calvin Ridley. Again, due to the defensive struggles of the Houston Texans, I think this is a solid week 4. Very, very risky, spicy start.
Do something like, if we're wrong, we have to eat a hot pepper.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't make it out alive. We don't spice. Like, pepper is spicy to Angela.
Like mild salsa is spicy to me. Yeah, I don't use pepper. Yeah, actual pepper, like sprinkly pepper. I do not use pepper because it is a little too much for me.
You're crazy.
Oh, boy.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we got for post week number 3, episode number 8. That is all we got for you guys. All of your week 4 matchups are locked and ready to go. A few housekeeping things. If you're not following us on social media, what are you doing? At Let's Talk Football Sis, TikTok, Instagram, go follow us right now. Share us with your friends too. Let's get a bigger community of women coming into the fantasy football space. We love you guys, and we want more women in this space domain with us and getting some female advice along the way. We also have a Patreon with our founding members price still active. $5 a month for our Patreon, and we go over all of your sit starts individualized for your roster. We're also doing waiver wires today. We'll be live in our Patreon talking everything you need to know about waiver wire pickups. And this week we're going to do trade talks in our Patreon. That way we can talk about who should you be trading for? What does your roster need? All of that inside information. Because if you're like, my team sucks, I need help, that's where trading comes in handy. So this is a great time to get in for the founding member price, $5 a month. You can join the Patreon in the show notes below. And we look forward to talking to you guys next week. Let's go. Week number 4 of fantasy football. We love you guys. Talk to you next week. Have a good one.
See you, everybody.